Welcome to today's video. This special video is entirely dedicated to those who are currently studying. One of the most frequent questions I get asked in the comment section is, "I'm studying, and my mind is constantly distracting me. How can I focus on my studies?" Well, today, let's discuss this distracting mind. I'm also going to share a few tips you can practice while studying to help focus your mind on your studies. So, without further ado, let's get into these tips. Have you ever found yourself daydreaming? Sometimes, we sit down to study, open our books, and start studying, but after a few minutes, what happens? We get distracted, right? We start daydreaming. Trust me, when I was studying at home before I became a monk, I used to daydream a lot. I got distracted constantly, so I understand how difficult it can be. It's very hard to focus on studying because we live in a world full of distractions. So, what can we do about this distracting mind? And how can we focus on our studies? There are certain things you can do. And one of the first things I want to share with you today is that I would like you to write down what distracts you. This is something you don't often hear about. Let's say you're studying, and you open your book and start working. Then, the same thing happens. What is it? Daydreaming. And that's okay. Let it happen. Once you realize and identify that you are daydreaming, I want you to grab a pen or pencil and a blank piece of paper. Write down the thought that distracted you. For example, while you're studying, you might start thinking about food. So, you write it down. I got distracted thinking about biryani. Or, sometimes, we get distracted thinking about past experiences. If that happens, write it down. I got distracted thinking about the past. Why should you do this? Because, most of the time, we are not aware of what we are thinking when we get distracted. When we daydream, we don't know what is going through our mind. We just get lost in a stream of thoughts. So, by writing it down, you are identifying the thought. It's like calling out that thought and acknowledging, "Okay, this is what makes me distracted. This is what makes me unfocused on my studies." When you write it down, there's a physical record of that thought, and you can see it on paper, which helps you recognize your distractions more clearly. What you will notice after doing this for a while is that there is a pattern to your distractions. You'll find that certain thoughts keep coming back to your mind and distracting you repeatedly. This pattern will help you understand what triggers your distractions, and you can then work to manage them more effectively. So, what do you have to do? Write it down. That is the first tip. The second tip is to identify what makes you distracted and then be brave enough to remove all those distractions. There are triggers that make us distracted. For example, consider your mobile phone. Let's say you're studying, and your mobile phone is on the desk. Every time it rings or a notification pops up, what do? You pick up your phone and check it. So, the mobile phone itself is not distracting you. It is simply a trigger for your distraction. A trigger is just a trigger until you give it the power to distract you. What do you have to do? Physically remove the distraction. Sometimes, it's difficult, but you must be brave enough to do so. If your phone is distracting you, take the action to remove it. If your laptop or any other device is distracting you, be brave enough to remove it as well. Now, I understand that sometimes we do need to use technology, such as a laptop for studying. In those cases, be disciplined and stay aware of what you are thinking and doing. Use your devices only for studying while you're engaged in your work. I'm not saying you can't use them for other purposes at other times. But while studying, stay focused on your goals. So, the second tip is to be brave enough to remove distractions. If something is distracting you, remove it. Tip number 3. Do not study for long hours continuously. I can still remember when I was studying at home. I used to create schedules and timetables, planning to study for 2 or 3 hours straight. But that approach is not productive. What you can do is study for shorter intervals, such as 25 minutes at a time. After that, take a short break and refresh yourself. Once you're rested, get back to studying. While you're studying, keep jotting down any distracting thoughts you may have, and write them down. This will help you keep track of what's diverting your attention. So, don't study for long hours continuously. Take breaks. Refresh yourself, and then return to your studies. And now, here comes the final tip. Tip number 4. This is the most important and effective tip. Practice a little bit of meditation before every study session. Before you start studying, take a few moments to meditate. Let's say you've studied for 25 minutes and then took a break. Now, before you return to your study, take a short moment to settle down and focus your mind. You can do this by practicing a simple breathing meditation. Sit down in your chair, close your eyes, and focus on your breath, your in-breath and out-breath. This type of calming meditation is one of the easiest methods to prepare your mind for studying. By focusing on your breath, you help your mind become calm and settled. This enables you to return to your studies with a clear and focused mindset. So, these are a few simple things you can practice while studying. Use these tips to make your study sessions more productive and focused. Take care and see you in the next video.